The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains.
The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles.
Religion is the opium of the people. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs.
The ruling ideas of each age have ever been the ideas of its ruling class.
The emancipation of the working class must be the act of the working class itself. Capital is dead labor that, vampire-like, only lives by sucking living labor. The production of too many useful things results in too many useless people.
History repeats itself, first as tragedy, then as farce.
Men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please.
The worker becomes all the poorer the more wealth he produces. The country that is more developed industrially only shows, to the less developed, the image of its own future. The tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living.
The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas.
In capitalist society, the free development of each is the condition for the free development of all. The theory of communism may be summed up in one sentence: abolish all private property. The proletariat is the revolutionary class.
Capitalist society is based on the exploitation of wage labor.
The capitalist exploits the worker by paying him less than the value he creates.
Political power, properly so called, is merely the organized power of one class for oppressing another. Class consciousness is the essential prerequisite for revolutionary action. The worker is related to the product of his labor as to an alien object. Capitalist production alienates the worker from the product, the process, and his own species being.
The social revolution is impossible without a revolutionary theory. Labor produces not only commodities, it produces itself and the worker as a commodity.
Money is the alienated essence of man's labor and life.
The division of labor leads to the alienation of the worker. The capitalist mode of production constantly revolutionizes the instruments of production. Every class struggle is a political struggle. The capitalist mode of production tends to concentrate wealth and to impoverish the proletariat. The proletariat must overthrow the bourgeoisie and abolish private property.
Capital comes dripping from head to foot, from every pore, with blood and dirt.
The ruling class cannot rule without ruling ideas. The appropriation of surplus value by capital is the historical basis of the capitalist mode of production.
Labor is the source of all wealth. The proletariat is the only class that is truly revolutionary.
The social revolution is the emancipation of labor from capitalist exploitation. The abolition of classes means the abolition of class antagonisms. The country that is more developed industrially only shows, to the less developed, the image of its own future. Men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please. The tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living. The proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest, by degrees, all capital from the bourgeoisie. The theory of communism may be summed up in one sentence: abolish all private property.
The capitalist class uses the state as an instrument of oppression. Capitalist production develops technology but also undermines old social relations. The proletariat is the revolutionary class that will overthrow capitalism. Class consciousness is essential for revolutionary action. Capitalist society is based on the exploitation of wage labor.
The concentration of capital increases with the development of capitalist production.
Society does not consist of individuals, but expresses the sum of interrelations. The alienation of the worker in his product means the loss of reality in the product itself. Freedom is the recognition of necessity. Philosophy is the head of emancipated man.
The criticism of religion is the prerequisite of all criticism. Wage labor is not the opposite of slavery, but its modern form.
Capital has one single life impulse: to valorize itself.
Machines are a means for producing surplus value. The circulation of commodities is the starting point of capital.
Production of ideas, of conceptions, of consciousness is directly interwoven with material activity. Law, morality, religion are so many bourgeois prejudices. The individual is the social being. Labor in capitalist society is not voluntary, but coerced.
The state is the executive committee of the bourgeoisie. The history of materialism is the history of real-life production. The proletariat is compelled to revolt by its very conditions of existence.
What the bourgeoisie produces above all is its own gravediggers. Capital is not a personal, it is a social power. Property relations are the legal expression of production relations. Revolutions are the locomotives of history. Ideas become a material force when they grip the masses. Morality is the ideology of the ruling class.
The first condition of human existence is that man must be able to live.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
No social order is ever destroyed before all the productive forces are developed.
Where there is no property, there is no injustice.
The working class is the heart of history.
Alienation is the loss of humanity in man. Without struggle, there is no progress. Democracy is the road to socialism. Labor transforms nature and society. The economy is not neutral, it reflects power.
To be radical is to grasp things by the root. Man is the highest being for man.
Life is not determined by consciousness, but consciousness by life. You cannot build socialism in one country alone. The bourgeoisie has played a revolutionary role in history, but now it stands in the way.
The workers have no country. Man makes religion. Religion does not make man. The value of a commodity is determined by the socially necessary labor time. The class which has the means of material production at its disposal has control over mental production. The purpose of philosophy is to change the world, not just to interpret it. Communism is the riddle of history solved. Labor is not only a means of life, but life's prime want.
Property is theft of collective effort. The more he works, the less he has to eat. Man is a species being, not just an individual. Time is the space for human development.
The proletariat carries the future in its hands. Revolution is the festival of the oppressed.
The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas. Communism is the positive abolition of private property. The workers can emancipate themselves only by overthrowing the bourgeoisie.
The mode of production of material life conditions the social, political, and intellectual life process. The struggle of classes is the motor of history.
The proletariat is the most revolutionary class because it has nothing to lose but its chains. Philosophy must become revolutionary, or it is no philosophy at all. Capital is a social relation that reproduces itself through exploitation.
Revolution is the sudden change from one mode of production to another. In the bourgeois society, capital is independent and has individuality, while the living person is dependent and has no individuality.
The proletariat will only be free when all classes are abolished. The superstructure follows from the economic base. Capitalism creates its own gravediggers in the proletariat. The wealth of societies in which the capitalist mode of production prevails appears as an immense collection of commodities.
The worker sinks to the level of a commodity and becomes indeed the most wretched of commodities.
The proletariat can only win by organizing itself as a class.
The emancipation of labor is the emancipation of the worker from the conditions of exploitation. The accumulation of wealth at one pole is, therefore, at the same time, accumulation of misery at the opposite pole. The state is but a committee for managing the common affairs of the bourgeoisie.
The proletariat is the negation of the bourgeoisie, and the negation of that negation is communism.